I'm just wondering, like, why more couples don't come sooner. Like when,
I've been doing couples therapy with my husband for about 2.5 years, but I think 99% of the reason why people don't do couples therapy until they're in a crisis point is because people think it's a crisis intervention. We were not in crisis when my husband suggested couples therapy, but when he first brought it up, I was like, what? Like, do you want to leave me? Like, because, like, even though we weren't having problems anywhere near that level, um, or like, do you have some big secret that you haven't told me that, like, you want to tell me with a therapist present or something? Because that was just my understanding of what couples therapy was, is that when he suggested it, I thought this meant something was really bad that I must not be aware of because I thought things were fine. Um, but no, like things were fine. I mean, we had our issues. Everybody does, I guess, but we certainly weren't like headed towards breaking up or anything like that. Um, and so he explained his reasoning, which was we'd both been in individual therapy for a year. We were getting a ton out of it. The biggest motivator to starting individual therapy was we wanted to work on our like individual mental health challenges uh, before parenting. And he's like, parenting is something that you do together. And so doesn't it make sense to not just be individually as strong as possible, but also for our partnership to be as strong as possible before having kids? And I thought that totally made sense, but I just thought this isn't what couples therapy is for. um, but, and I think that kind of probably is true. Our couples therapist has told us that we're like oddballs among his couples, and that we're not using it as a way to work through problems that we don't feel like we can work through alone, or to avoid breaking up, or to cope with like some big thing like somebody cheated or something like that. Um, but I really like using couples therapy for the way that we've used it. It has definitely been really good for us, and so I wish that the way we're using it was more normalized. But when mentioning couples therapy to anybody close to us, even people like really close who I'm sure know that we have like a pretty good relationship, there is kind of this like reaction where and I think it's just because people think it's something people do before getting divorced or to try to avoid divorce. And so I think because of that, if you're kind of having normal relationship problems and not really bad relationship problems, people just don't even consider it. But it seems to me that that's kind of how individual therapy used to be, is that people thought it was something for people with really severe mental health problems, and it seems like it's become so much more normalized, that you can go for stress or kind of like ordinary anxiety, or not like, I mean, it's still a diagnosis, I guess, but you don't have to have your anxiety be like completely ruining your life to go to therapy to deal with your anxiety or your depression or your grief or whatever. And so I'm hopeful that maybe we can over time kind of change the narrative about couples therapy and make it something that is just a way to strengthen relationships and to like figure out how to like best support each other and how to navigate your like individual mental health together, because I know that my husband and I kind of have ways that my coping methods or my triggers or whatever impact him and vice versa. And being able to work with a therapist who sees both of us and who understands both of our like kind of backstories and our coping methods and our triggers and stuff and how they mix is really helpful. Like just as one quick example, my husband has like bouts of depression sometimes, and that gives me extreme anxiety, and then I shut down. And if he's depressed and I shut down, I feel emotionally unavailable to him, and then he feels abandoned. And so we kind of end up both feeling alone and scared, and we didn't used to realize what was happening. And that wasn't something that we had huge fights over or that we were like ever going to break up over or anything like that. But it's definitely a pattern that we'd had for years. Like maybe it was just a couple times a year or something would happen, but it always came back. Like it was a pattern we had. And we didn't really understand exactly all of like the nuances of it. And so having insight into that is really helpful. And now like that we both understand our piece of it, we both can go like, oh, I can kind of break the chain in this cycle here, or he can break it here, but we have like an infinitely better chance of breaking the cycle if we both know where our piece of the cycle is. And it would seem to me like almost any long term relationship is going to have some sort of cycle like that, where you kind of bump into each other. And gaining insight into that is great. So, yeah, I don't know. I love doing couples therapy. Um, I wish it was more normalized and not just as a we're trying to avoid divorce thing.